Yo, what is up, guys? It's Pedro here. We got another Washington Commanders weekly stream, and I got a great guest, the Ed Oliver, the real Ed Oliver, not the one from the Bills. So, appreciate Ed for coming on. He's the reason why I started this channel. So, really appreciate him for coming on. And how you doing, Ed?
I'm great, man. I appreciate you for having me on, man. It means a lot. And congrats on what you're at right now, like 10K, 11K?
10K, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Congrats.
appreciate that. Appreciate that. So we're gonna start off by obviously the news right now is offensive coordinator stuff. We'll touch a little bit on ownership, but not too much into that. And then we'll get into the biggest needs and stuff like that. So as I have some people in the chat, Brian Harding, and of course, I know all of you guys are already subbed up to Ed, but if you're not, make sure you guys hit that sub button on the road to 15K. Link will be in the description, and Brian just put it in the chat. So make sure you guys sub him up. What's up, DeAndre, my guy? Queese, and Jefferson. So offensive coordinator search has been underway for what, two and a half weeks now. And we kind of know the candidates. It's what, Ken Zampese, Pat Shermer, we got Eric Studsville, Charles London, Thomas Brown, and Anthony Lynn. Am I missing anyone?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, you said Charles London, Studsville, Pat Shermer. Yeah, I think that's
Zampese.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
Zampese.
it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, so those are the candidates, and let's see what's up, King Sean Noah, Washington, around the globe baseball. Make sure you guys sub up to him. Great baseball, up and coming YouTuber. He just subbed to Ed. So let's get. What are your preferred candidates in terms of, like, I honestly am not in love with any of these guys, but there's a couple that I like over some of the other ones. So what are your kind of preferences and guys that you don't want?
Yeah, Thomas Brown, he's a good candidate. He's an up and coming guy, young, innovative guy. He's the assistant coach with the Rams, tight ends coach, former running back in the NFL, running back at Georgia, coached a couple good running backs in the league, coached Tyler Higbee with the Rams too. So he's got a good resume. Coached with Sean McVay, won a Super Bowl. I haven't really, he hasn't called plays in the league yet. He called plays at Miami as offensive coordinator. So, he had a good offense at the University of Miami as their coordinator. So he's an interesting guy. He's young. He's 32 years old, and that's what I want. That's the complete opposite of Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera would just being an old school, old-minded kind of guy. So I would be interested in Thomas Brown. I do like Charles London a little bit just because of the Falcons and the way they were running the football. Like, the Falcons, they almost beat us, man. We couldn't stop them on the ground. Like, say what you want about Mariota. Like, he's not a great passer, but whatever they were doing over there in Atlanta, they made him look like a decent. He was a good runner, man. Like, that read option, that Navy kind of football kind of style is what they want to do. What Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew want to do. They want to run the heck out of the football. I know we got weapons, Jahan and Terry and Curtis. I'd rather them air the ball out, of course. But if they're really going to put their money where their mouth is and say they really want to run the football with Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, or whoever, Jared Patterson next year, and Sam Howell's a dual threat quarterback too. So I think Charles London is an interesting candidate. Pat Shermer was awful with the Broncos. He was a bad head coach with the Giants, but like all the guys they brought in, they've been good at certain places. Like Pat Shermer was good with Nick Foles. He was good with Case Keenum and the Minneapolis Miracle. He coached Case Keenum during that time when he went to the NFC Championship. He coached Sam Bradford. So Pat Shermer, he's had success, and then he's had big time failures with Drew Lock. And then he got fired with the Giants with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones had a good rookie year, so but I get if they want Pat Shermer. And the funny thing is with Pat Shermer, Kyle Shermer was on the practice squad last year, so there's a lot of connections with Pat Shermer and Ron Rivera. We know how Ron Rivera loves to hire his buddies and his friends. Like, if he knows you and you're buddy with him, then you're at the top of the list. Zampese, he would be a disappointing hire because it's kind of like the same thing. Like, you're going in-house. You did all these interviews for nothing, really, if you're going to hire Zampese. You might as well just promoted him basically like you did with Zagonia. And Zagonia did a good job. So maybe Zampese could do a good job. But the thing about Zampese, when he was an offensive coordinator with the Bengals, he got fired pretty quick. Like, he coached 2 games as offensive coordinator. His second year, they didn't score a touchdown in either game for the Bengals. And they fired him. I think he's a good quarterbacks coach, but offensive coordinator, I wouldn't trust Zampese at all. And I think Albert Breer came up with an article saying that from what he's hearing, the front runner is Ken Zampese, and that's just screams a Ron Rivera kind of move. So that's what I'm preparing myself for. And Anthony Lynn, I think he's going to decline the interview. I think he's going to decline it. If Daryl Bevell declined the interview and Jim Caldwell declined the interview, then I think Anthony Lynn's he's going to decline the interview. He might. We'll see. But my bet is that Anthony Lynn's probably going to decline it.
Yeah, I agree with most of your takes there. Let's add some people in the chat. KRT, Brendan, Andre, King Sean, Will Diggs. Let's see, Brian Young Money D1. Appreciate all you guys for coming through. Make sure you guys sub up, hit that like button, and everything like that. And yeah, I agree. I like Thomas Brown, even though I'm not like super stoked about him. He's probably my favorite one. Only thing that is a little concerning is that the Rams are looking for an offensive coordinator and they aren't interviewing him. That's really the only thing I'm concerned with. But besides that, he's probably my front runner. The other guys, I'm not really like in love with any of them. Like Eric Studsfield's all right. He's got a lot of experience. Charles London maybe has a little bit more potential. I mean, yeah, that's really it. No one that I'm really like, okay, that's who I want. And I just got to say this. I was wrong about Scott Turner. Me and Ed always talking on Twitter about Scott Turner. I was wrong about him. I thought he was better than he was, and he just was terrible this year. Like I just can't even deny it or defend him after whatever the second game. I was never on that train anymore, and I'm glad I finally was able to get off of it. I honestly thought he did much better last year or whatever 2021 with worse weapons than he did in 2022. I think 2022 was his worst year, but happy he's gone. And who knows, maybe he'll do something somewhere else. There was like reports that teams would be interested in him, but I haven't seen him get any offensive coordinator interviews or anything like that. And who knows, he'll probably be like a quarterback's coach somewhere, but he won't be here. And I guess that's good for us. Anyone is going to be better than Scott Turner. Like he single-handedly lost us the second Giants game. Like, Robinson was averaging 7.3 yards per carry, and I think he just had like an 18-yard run. And Curtis Samuel at that point had 4 carries for 0 yards, and on first down they decided to run with Curtis Samuel and gets 1 yard, and that was the drive where Taylor Heineke fumbled. And if they would have scored there, they probably win the game, and they're in the playoffs. Like that's, and who knows? Maybe if they're in the playoffs, Scott Turner doesn't get fired. No idea, but. Glad he's gone, and we're gonna get someone, and it's gonna be hard for them not to be better than Scott Turner because he was pretty bad. But yeah, Thomas Brown is probably my top guy, and then Eric Studsfield and maybe Charles London are the next two. Ken Zampese would want to stay away from him, but he has developed some young QBs in the past. But I do agree with you there on the offensive coordinator search. Who do you think it will be? You think it's going to be Ken Zampese?
I think it's going to be Ken Zampese, man. And you know what? I think my bold prediction for the quarterback they signed, I think it's going to be Ken Zampese, and I think they're going to get a retread quarterback to be a backup to Daniel Jones. I got a feeling it's going to be Andy Dalton on a 1-year contract. And Ken Zampese coached Andy Dalton. He coached Carson Palmer too with the Bengals.
Yeah, no. I mean, at this point, it's either swing big or just stick with Howell. And honestly, like at first, I was like, maybe we can go after like Lamar or something. But if you really think about it, like I think Lamar's amazing, but Lamar's a really good quarterback. But they have won 1 playoff game in 5 years with Lamar Jackson on a rookie deal, getting paid like, let's say $6 million a year, $7 million a year. Now, if we trade from, not only are we going to have to give up multiple first-round picks, maybe some players, and some mid-round picks, we're also going to be paying him $50+ million a year. I just don't think we're going to be able to win with that, with him getting paid $50 million. I hate it though if it happened? No, because he's an exciting young player, but I don't know if it would be the smartest move, especially the last 2 years he struggled with injuries. What do you think about Lamar?
I love Lamar. I'm a big fan of his game. I'm a huge fan of Lamar Jackson. He's a winner, man. Everywhere he goes, he's a winner. But, yeah, like you said, we have to give up multiple first-round picks, and then he wants, $45-50 million per year. So I think he's earned it, man. I really do. I think before he went to Baltimore, man, they weren't doing anything. Joe Flacco was the quarterback. They weren't going to make the playoffs. They put him in. And he led them to the playoffs. They went 14-2 the next year. But like you said, the injuries are a concern. You're gonna have to tailor your offense to Lamar. I just don't think this coaching staff is innovative enough to fit around Lamar and get the best out of him. So I don't trust this coaching staff here. It depends on who the offense coordinator is going to be as well. But yeah, it'll be tough. You have to give up not only picks, but you probably have to give up a couple good players too to get Lamar Jackson. Man, like if I'm the Ravens, I'm not. You got whatever the trade was for Russell Wilson and some other big name quarterbacks that have been traded. It's got to be more than that, in my opinion. So I think for what you're going to give up, I don't think it's going to be realistic either. I think they're going to franchise tag him too. I think it would be dumb for the Ravens to move on from him anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, they have to at least. I think the worst case scenario for that, like they're at least gonna franchise tag him, and if they can't get to a long-term deal, they'll either keep him for that year or just trade him or try to trade him. Someone Young Money D1 says, "How do you guys feel about Trey Lance? Hearing reports Brock could be the starter." I don't mind Trey. I mean, it's just I don't know how much you're gonna have to give up for him, but I mean, he was the number 3 pick in the draft for a reason. He's got a lot of talent, and he's gonna be, it's gonna be his 3rd year. But really, I mean, he didn't play in his rookie year much, and this past year he was a starter, but he only played a couple games before he got hurt. So I would be interested in him. Just depends on how much you have to give up, and if it's like a first-round pick, I just rather run it or just see what you have in Howell, and yeah, go with that for his first or for his 2nd year versus giving up a first plus for Trey Lance.
Yeah, I'll shout out a couple of people in the chat. Brian Harden, what's up, man? DeAndre Taylor, Andre Fuller, what's up, man? What's up, King Sean? Reggie Reg, what's up, man? But
Reggie
Trey
Red.
Lance, yeah, Trey Lance. I pass on Trey Lance. I don't want this coaching staff to bring in any other quarterback. I just want to roll with Sam, man. Just see what Sam's got. Trey Lance, he was a project coming in. I'm not saying that Sam Howell's not a project, but I feel like Sam Howell is more polished as a passer than Trey Lance. So I want to see what we got in Sam. I wouldn't trade for Trey Lance, and I think I saw a report too that it might be lesser than a 3rd-round pick for Trey Lance because his value has gone down. But I still wouldn't trade for Trey Lance. I wouldn't do that. I'd rather just roll with Sam, see what he's got. Maybe get like a cheap veteran as a backup or keep Heineke. But yeah, I wouldn't trade for Trey Lance. The only way I'm trading for a quarterback is if I know it's a legitimate upgrade. I'm not trading for a guy that is still a big question mark.
Yeah, and also what I kind of think is I rather just have hopefully a new regime in 2024 pick the quarterback and everything like that versus like let's say Rivera comes in, trades for Trey Lance or drafts like Anthony Richardson. Like I just rather the new GM be able to pick the guy they want to pick, whether Howell's already that guy or it's like, okay, it's not Howell and let's move on to a rookie or a veteran. That's what I think. Someone says with the Jets adding Hackett, do you think they might try to push for A-Rod? They might. I mean, I think they're definitely going to try to get a new QB. It just depends on if Rodgers is going to retire or not. But yeah, that would be interesting for sure. I think the Jets with Rodgers would be a very good team. So let's move on to kind of Commanders free agents. So Daron Payne, I'm sure you want him back, yeah?
Oh, 100%, man. He won a couple of games for us already. The left hand up against the Falcons. We don't win that game without him. 11 and a half tackles, 11 and a half. I was going to say tackles, but 11 and a half sacks from a defensive tackle is insane numbers. He got the recognition. They put him in the Pro Bowl now. I think he made like all NFC team or something like that. So he's getting the recognition that he deserves. Not only does he stop the run, but he's rushing the passer too. And him and John Allen, they play a lot of snaps. Like they play way more snaps than your normal defensive tackle or interior lineman. I do believe that I feel like it's going to come down to a franchise tag in the offseason. I think he will be back here next year, but I think it's going to be a franchise tag. If not the franchise tag, then I think he's going to walk. I just don't see them paying him. I think he's going to get paid more than John Allen this year just because the cap going up. And I think he's earned it, man. I mean, especially last year he was a little inconsistent, but this year, man, I think he knew he obviously he knows his contract year and he played like it for sure. You saw him clean out his locker. He just said he wants to get paid. So If they don't pay him, then there's going to be a lot of teams lining up from the Browns. There's a lot of teams that need interior defensive linemen, man.
Yeah.
And him and John Allen, they're the heart and soul of this defensive line. And he stays healthy too. Like, no knock against some of the other guys. Chase has been out with an ACL. I don't think Chase is injury prone or anything like that, but Jerome Payne's reliable, man. He's very durable. Very durable, man. He doesn't miss games at all. And we've complained about players in the past, like Brandon Sheriff getting big contracts because, he missed games. But you look at Jerome Payne, man, he doesn't really miss a lot of games either. So, yeah, he's been huge, man. He's been huge. So I definitely want to bring him back.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's missed what, 1 or 2 games in his 5 years in DC. I would at minimum franchise tag him, and if he doesn't want to be here, trade him, because I remember Keim he said it this season, but he said that teams were willing to give up a second for Daron Payne last year. And that's when like his most sacks was like 5 sacks, and that was his rookie year. So coming off an 11.5 sack season, if you find a team that is willing to pay him the money, we can easily get a second round pick, I think, for Payne. And who knows, maybe a little bit more if if there's more than one team involved. I think that's something that you do, or you just keep him for the year, or keep him and then trade him at the trade deadline. But I would like to have him back for more than 1 year. What's up, Billy? Appreciate you coming through. I think that he's going to get paid 20 mil, 100% or more. I think it's like 21, 22 mil, because Jonathan Allen got paid 18 million a year, I believe. And that was 2 off seasons ago, before even he had his big year, because his best year was after his contract year. So Daron Payne is, he had his best year before his contract year. So I think it's going to be a ton of money, but I think I would pay it, because interior offensive linemen, like a lot of them are, dominating games, and you have, Allen and Payne up the middle. I think that would help out a ton, or, in the future. And then you got, Chase and Montez. That's going to be interesting. I really think they're going to have to pick one of those guys. And I think you probably have to pick Chase, just because he was your number 2 overall pick. But like, this year is huge for Chase. Like, in my opinion, he has no excuses this year. Last year, obviously, he had the ACL injury, and I don't really care about the last few games. Like, I'm just happy he played. But he's gonna have a full off season. He played at the end of the season. Like, this year, he has to show out like double-digit sacks. Like, he had, like, his rookie year, he met expectations. Second year was disappointing. Third year, kind of incomplete. We just don't know. So this year, we have to see like why we drafted him with the number 2 overall pick, and we need to see like a Pro Bowl player.
Yeah, you definitely kept the heat on Chase with the whole injury thing. I know you said it was fishy from the start, from the jump, but I'm happy that Chase finally played the last 3 games of the year. And my expectations were very low for him. I know he didn't get any sacks, excuse me, or anything like that towards the end of the year. But the Niners game, he was explosive. I'll give him that. He was stopping the run. He got right in front of a Christian McCaffrey. Like, Brock Purdy tried to throw a screen to Christian McCaffrey. He got right to it. Like, he snuck it out. But yeah, he didn't dominate in the Cowboys game. He didn't dominate. Who else? We played the Browns game, kind of a non-factor. So for him to be the second overall pick, and you look at the guys who were drafted behind him. I hate to bring this up, Justin Herbert and guys like that, and the thing is, we weren't going to get a quarterback anyway. Nobody was talking about Justin Herbert, so I hate when people say that. But yeah, and then you point to last year too. We went on the 4-game win streak without Chase Young. We won a lot of games without Chase Young. So I still think he's a great player. I think he's a talented player, but he's got to put it together. I think he was caught up in sacks last year, him and Montez Sweat. Like, every time you could see him and Montez Sweat running past the quarterback last year. Specifically that Bills game against Josh Allen. They were just running past the quarterback. They were not running with discipline. And I felt like he got the yips last year too. Like, he could have sacked Matt Ryan, but he like kind of put his forearm up and then missed Matt Ryan or something. He like let him go. So it was a weird year for Chase. It was a disappointing year, and then he got injured. And then this year he fights hard to get back. So, he tried to get back, but I just knew he wasn't really going to be very impactful in the games this year. So, yeah, it's a make or break year for him, man. Seriously, like, because that 5th-year option is coming up too. They got to make a decision on that too. Like, if he has an underwhelming year next year, then you're kind of thinking about that. And you got to make a decision. Like, Montez Sweat, he's been very consistent. Like, you know what you're going to get from Montez Sweat. That's one thing I'll say. Like, you know you're going to get at least 7 or 8 sacks from him. He's a solid player. Chase is a good player too, of course. But has he lived up to the hype? I mean, you got to be honest with yourself. I mean, with ourselves, he hasn't. And I know a lot of people probably in the chat are calling him a bust and all that stuff. I think it's way too early. It's way too early to say that. But this year's a big year, man. I don't want to hear any setbacks. I know there was the rumor that he had an injury in with Von Miller. So there's always something coming out with him. So and I think this offseason you saw him kind of relax with the commercials and stuff. He came to every OTA. That was a big deal. That was a big problem last year. He came to every OTA last year. I think it would be best for him to just show up to all the workouts. And it doesn't matter. You could not show up to workouts. We've seen guys not show up to workouts and still ball out in the regular season. But I think a guy for him, I think he needs to do everything that Ron Rivera asks him to do. And Ron, he talked about maturity a lot the previous season. I think some of that was talking about Chase, and I think some of that was talking about Montez Sweat. So we need him to live up to the hype, man, because you already paid John Allen. You're paying you might pay Deron Payne, and then you might pay Montez Sweat. So it's like, are you going to give Chase Young that amount of money? Because you look at defensive ends and what they're getting. Even guys like Jadeveon Clowney, you look at his contract a couple years ago. You look at what defensive ends are getting. They're getting in $20 million a year. So is it worth it for Chase Young if he comes and plays like he did the year before, 1.5 sacks, not getting pressures? Then you gotta really be honest here and say, are you going to give him the 5th-year option? Are you going? I mean, I think they will do that, but going forward, are you going to pay him when his contract ends?
Yeah, and I think, and what's up, Yemi? What's up, Roger? What's up, Harry? I don't think you can call Chase Young a bust right now, but if he goes through next year, let's say plays the whole year and gets like 3 sacks, then maybe you can start thinking about that. But yeah, he's got to step up, and I think they can do the 5th-year option this offseason. I'm pretty sure, because Montez, they picked it up last offseason, so I think they can do it with Chase. And yeah, they weren't going to draft a quarterback that year unless Joe Burrow was there. I think if Joe Burrow was there, they probably would have drafted him, but that's like the only one.
Tua.
Yeah, people got to realize like Herbert was like the 3rd, or some people even had him behind Jordan Love. Like, so it wasn't like we were like really, really wanted to get him, and we didn't want Tua either. Like we drafted Chase over him. But yeah, it is what it is. Hindsight's 2020. We'll see how Chase Young plays. Hopefully, we're able to figure out the franchise quarterback position. And who knows, like Herbert, like who knows if Herbert would have been what he is in Los Angeles here. I think Joe Burrow is the only like safe one because like he just has the it factor. Like I feel like anywhere he would have went, he would have balled out. He just got that mentality, and he took a franchise like the Bengals, who just were struggling for a while, not winning any playoff games, and change their franchise in a year or two. So he would have been fine here, but the other ones, who knows? Who knows? I feel like Tua here would have just been a disaster. Like I think he wouldn't have developed. I don't think he has that like dog mentality like some of those guys, and I feel like he could have been flustered by a bad start, maybe some injuries as well. So we'll see with Chase. I'm excited to see what he can do this year. Same thing with Montez. I mean, Montez has been good. He hasn't been great yet, but he's been good. But he has that potential. Like he's an athletic freak. Like he's 4.4 speed, 6'6". I remember when we drafted him, you were saying what Julius Pep was that for Chase or was that for Montez?
It was for Montez.
Yeah, and I think
remember,
a lot of people agreed because he has that height and he's got that speed and he still has that potential. Like we've seen some of the games where he's like the Tennessee Titans game this year, we had like 1.5 sacks or 2 sacks and could have had 3 or 4. He's the king of being like a third of a second too late. Like he's always at the quarterback right after he releases it. And this is going to be a big year for him. I could see the same thing that happened to Deron Payne happen to Sweat this year in a contract year. He's got that potential. I think if he doesn't re-sign here, some team is going to pay him a lot of money because of that potential. He's got all pro potential. Like there's a reason he had those high comparisons, and the only reason he got drafted in the with the 26th pick is because of the heart condition, because some teams were concerned with that. So would you consider trading Montez at all? Because you probably let's say you re-sign Deron Payne. So you re-sign Deron Payne and you already have Jonathan Allen under contract. Would you consider trading Montez? Because it would be hard to keep Montez and Chase. Or would you just be like, let's run it back and see what we can do later on?
Oh, this year I'm definitely bringing the whole defensive line back. I wouldn't trade any of these guys because they're really the heart and soul of this team. You know, when we went on our 4-game winning streak, we were winning because of the defense. They were getting stops. They were one of the better teams in stopping a run. And Montez Sweat is good at run stopping too. He was getting pressures as well during the 4-game winning streak. So the defensive line, the whole D line was eating in that 4-game winning streak. It was huge, and that's how we were winning games. We were running the football. It was ugly. It was methodical games. We were winning games 17-14. The Falcons game we won by nail biter. We had 2 3-game winning streaks. The Colts game was an ugly defensive battle. The Eagles game, that's how we won that game too. It's just ugly smash mouth football, relying on the defense. So that's the strength of our team. If I know we want to get ahead of it, but I wouldn't trade any of them right now. I wouldn't trade. The only way I'm trading any of the D linemen right now this year is if an elite quarterback becomes available. There's not a lot of elite quarterbacks available. I know Aaron Rodgers has been kind of saying, like, you know, he'll go on the Pat McAfee show every now and then and say, you know, he'll say something cryptic like, oh, he thinks he's going to leave or whatever. He doesn't know what his future is. So that's like the only way. A first round pick would be intriguing. You know, somebody's like, oh, we'll give you a first for Montez Sweat or a first for Chase Young, but no, I would decline all of them right now because I think when they're all playing together and they're locked in, like, I think they're a dominant group. I think during the winning streak, and I want to see Chase Young get fully healthy too. I want to see how he plays with Montez Sweat locked in. And you got Fedarian Mathis. I do think we need to get some backup defensive ends in there too. But I wouldn't trade those guys at all. There's a couple funny comments in there too, like somebody Juan Jorge, he had a funny comment too. He said, legit question. Please don't judge, but what about bringing in Cam Newton in the mixture, give him a 1-year contract to help Sam Howell's development? He's already familiar with Ron Rivera's scheme. I don't know. But yeah, no, I wouldn't trade those guys right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't go after Cam. I mean, we've already seen the Patriots year wasn't that great, and then the Carolina reunion didn't play that great, and I think here would be just bad. And just bring back Heineke at that point. Bring back Heineke for cheap. Have him as a backup, and honestly, just I think they might have him compete, and I'm fine with that. I think Hal should get the job, but like if he can't beat out Heineke in camp, then like I don't think he's that guy, honestly. Like because Heineke, like we've heard it, like he's never practiced well in training camp. He's never like lighting it up. It's always like, oh, struggle, interceptions and stuff like that. So Hal should be out Heineke, or at least like have it somewhat close. Because if Heineke's dominating him in training camp, Sam Howell is not the answer at the quarterback position. And I think people need to temper expectations with Howell. Like I think people are expecting him to be a top 10 QB in this league. If he is like honestly this year, if he's a top 22 QB, that is a huge upgrade over what we've had. And that would be a very I know people won't be happy with it, but a top 22 QB in his second year as a 5th round pick with what we're paying him, like at what, like 500, 700K, that's a huge win because think about it. We got I think it's PFF, so you have to take it with a grain of salt, but I think they ranked Heineke as a 37th ranked quarterback and Wentz is 33rd, which I don't think that makes sense, but still, our quarterback play has been terrible, and we won 8 games. You put in Howell, let's say he's a 22nd, making 600K versus Wentz making 28 mil. You can spend that money on other guys, and you can win 9, 10 plus games. And then maybe in year 3, he's a little bit better. He's a top 18, top 16 guy, and eventually maybe an average quarterback. An average quarterback on a rookie deal, like teams can win with that. Like Raiders, they won with Derek Carr on his rookie deal, and some other teams have won with average, sometimes, above average quarterbacks or slightly below average quarterbacks on rookie deals. So how we don't need him to be that top 5, top 10 quarterback. If he is, great, but I don't think that's going to happen. But if he can be a below average quarterback this year, that's an upgrade over what we've had, and it'll be for very cheap. You're like, it's so early, but your thoughts on Sam Howell?
I like what I saw, man. He's got a good arm strength, man. He's a dual threat quarterback. I loved him. I really liked him coming out of Carolina. He was my favorite quarterback. It was between him and Kenny Pickett. Didn't really like Matt Corral because I thought everything, was very predictable for him. It was a lot of easy passes. I feel like a lot of things were schemed wide open, like tight ends wide open in the middle of the field, wide receivers wide open in the middle of the field. But Sam Howell, man, he lost both his running backs. He lost De'Ami Brown, and I think he learned from that his last year at Carolina. He struggled a little bit, but I think it helped him. It hurt his draft stock, but I think it helped him where he had to put the team on his back and do other things and be a dual threat quarterback. He leads his receivers. You see, he caught Jahan Dotson in stride on a slant. Caught Jahan Dotson in stride down the field, but Jahan dropped it.
Terry as well when he dropped it.
Yeah, Terry when he dropped it. He caught Terry wide open when he beat the Dallas corner, and that was a good connection. That was like one of the next gen stats, like one of the best throws from a Washington quarterback in like the last 5 years or something like that. He's got the moxie, man. He's got. I feel like he has got the leadership, the speech after the game too. I didn't like the interception, but I like the mobility, man. He's strong, man. He knows how to slide. He's physical. He can break tackles. I think he really has potential, man. And he looked good in preseason. I know it's preseason, but you can see something that was there in preseason too. Like even when he was throwing the ball to Alex Erickson and Dax Milne, like he was leading guys too. Like guys get yak yards after the catch with Sam Howell. That's something that we weren't really seeing a lot with our quarterbacks this year. I mean, Terry was getting some yak here and there, but there was definitely a difference in the zip in his passes and just throwing guys open, throwing guys while they're in stride. That's something that I just didn't see from a lot of quarterback play this year. So I thought he was impressive, man. And Dallas had their starters in too, man. Like they had Micah Parsons in there for a long time. Trayvon Diggs was playing for the majority of the game. Like, you can't say that Dallas wasn't playing their starters. Like their starters were playing the majority of the game. So
exactly.
I like what I saw from him, but my expectations are high. I know it's going to be a developmental year to just come in and think he's going to go 10-7 or 11-6 or 12-5, whatever. That's not realistic. So my expectations are very low for next year, but I'd rather do that than force it with Derek Carr or Jimmy G or any type of retread quarterback or, Matt Ryan, guys like that, Carson Wentz kind of quarterbacks. I'd rather just roll with Sam. And if Sam's not good next year, or even if he is good and we still end up like 7-10 with Ron Rivera, or hopefully if he's not good, hopefully we get better draft position instead of being 7-10 or 8-1 and getting the 16th pick. Hopefully we can bottom out and get a top 5 pick where we can get one of the really, really talented quarterbacks next year. And then maybe Sam can compete with one of those guys and we'll see. We'll go from there. But Sam's got talent, man. He's got a good arm, man. I like him a lot. I think he has the opportunity to be a good quarterback. It just depends on this offensive line. If Ron doesn't get this offensive line right again, if he wants to sign some old guys and be cheap, then yeah, Howell's going to be under a lot of pressure next year, and that's definitely going to hurt his development for sure.
Yep, I saw someone say Terry dropped that pass. Yemi said because it's the best pass he's seen all year, and yeah, I mean I don't think Terry was used to the ball being like in front of him. And that sucks because if he would have caught that, he would have been on over 1,200 yards on the season. So unfortunate there. But you talk about the offensive line. I made a video about like I think they need to retool it, at least bring in 2 more starters. I heard you talk about Charles Leno in your video today, so I'll go first. But think about it while I'm talking about what you would do on the offensive line. I really think they need to bring in some new starters, and I agree with you on Leno. Like if he's back, he's back. If he's not, he's not. Like I really don't care. I think he's okay. I think he's better than the fans think. I think people overhated him a little bit this year. I think he's playing through an injury in the last half of the season. And yeah, he was not good in the last half, but I would not mind him at left tackle. Or let's say you draft a tackle or sign a big money tackle, move Leno over to the right side. If he doesn't want to move over, well, you just cut him and you save $8 million. Think you got to bring in. I would let Cosme and Paul compete for one of the guard spots and then bring in a free agent guard. And then I would draft a guy maybe in the 3rd, second or third round. That's like a center slash guard, like someone like Landon Dickerson. So you have a plan in place if Chase Roulier isn't back, so you can develop that guy. That's what I would do with the offensive line. Your thoughts?
Yeah, with Leno, man, he's starting to give me like Morgan Moses vibes, where like he's not trash, but he's not great. Like he's just a starter. He's a little bit above average, but he's definitely expendable. You know, like I know a lot of people were torn when we cut Morgan Moses, but you know he was reliable. Like he stayed healthy. Like that's the thing with Leno too. Like you know he's gonna be there. You know he's reliable. You know he's gonna be healthy. Yeah, he's gonna give up a couple sacks, but for the most part, he's solid, and that's what Leno is. I don't think I don't think he's trash like the fan base call him, but he was a big letdown. Like Kayvon Thibodeau was giving him, it was definitely beating him a couple times in both Giants games, not just one of the Giants games, but both Giants games. Leno was definitely a liability in both games. So towards the end of the year, Leno kind of fell off. I don't know if it was the Walter Payton Man of the Year thing he was really trying to go after, but he definitely disappointed towards the end of the year. Lucas is okay, but he's a backup. He shouldn't be starting. He's pretty inconsistent at right tackle, man. So we might have to see what he's got at guard. We tried him at guard last year. He was okay, but he wasn't great at right tackle either. He was getting beat too before he got injured. And then Rouye, honestly I think we should cut Rouye. It's been 2 years in a row, man, that he's been hurt. Looking at his numbers, like he only played 2 games this year. He played 8 games last year, and honestly, he's okay. He's solid, but honestly, he doesn't make a difference. Like we went on the 4-game winning streak last year without him. We won 8 games. We won 7 games without Mourinho this year. So it tells you like, hey, we can still win without this guy. So every year he's getting injured. Every year, and it's not like a small injury. It's like a big season-ending type of injury where he's getting carted off the field. And I know it's not his fault, but he got that contract, and after that, he's only played 10 games in a span of 2 years. Like that's unacceptable. Like I said before, with Brandon Sheriff, we gave Brandon Sheriff such a hard time. Brandon Sheriff has played way more games than what Chase Roulier did. So I would move on from Chase Roulier. If they cut Leno, I understand. If you cut Leno, I would feel like you have to draft a tackle. You don't have to, but I think it would be wise to. Like Mel Kiper came with his mock draft. I know people hate Mel Kiper, but the tackle out of Georgia, it makes sense because this offensive line, man, the way Ron constructed it this year, it made me really want to go after offense. I've never wanted to sign and draft. Every offseason, I'm like, yeah, get a wide receiver. But this year, I'm like pounding on the table to attack the offensive line this year. He went cheap last year. He got guys that he liked. Andrew Norwell, you got to cut Andrew Norwell. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Trey Turner's a free agent. You got to let him walk. All of them can walk. Chris Paul, I would want to see what he's got. I don't know if you want to pencil him as the starter.
Yeah.
But I would definitely give him a chance to compete as a starter. Cosme can be one of the guards or a tackle. Bring back Lucas. But honestly, if they just bring in a whole different offensive line, I'm fine with that because all of them need improvement. Like Leno like I said, he's solid at best. But yeah, we definitely need to draft a tackle in one of the first 3 rounds or sign one. Now I know a pipe dream is Orlando Brown from the Chiefs because you're gonna have to pay him a lot of money. I've seen some people throw him out there, but yeah, they got to revamp this offensive line. Ron can't play around like he did last year.
Yeah, Norwell just was not good at all. I mean, I think Trey Turner was better than Andrew Norwell. Andrew Norwell was just not good. Trey Turner was terrible to start off the season, but when he came back,
oh yeah, Sadiq Charles too. I don't know what they're gonna do with him. I mean, they might bring him back. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, he's cheap.
Not part of the he's not part of the plan. He's part of the backups. But Trey Turner was okay, but like not good enough to bring back. So I agree with what you're saying. Red House, not Roadhouse. Appreciate the $2 donation. He said, I can go either way with Logan Thomas. What I would do, I would go to him and be like, okay, bro, like you just didn't have a great year. You're willing to restructure, and if he doesn't, I'm moving on. And he's a great guy, fellow Hokie, but he just was not the same this year. And the amount of blocks this man missed, like as much as we hate Scott Turner, like there were times like the Giants game, the first Giants game where Curtis Samuel had like the huge run and we were like in field goal range. And then Scott Turner calls like a run for Brian Robinson. Logan Thomas just gets absolutely killed by I don't know who it was. He just completely missed the block, and then Robinson loses 4 yards. And then because of that, we're out of field goal range because Scott Turner has Logan Thomas blocking I don't know who, and Logan Thomas doesn't even touch the guy. So he missed, and that wasn't the only. Like there was so many blocks where Logan Thomas completely missed. So I think it could be time to move on from him. He's making like 8-9 mil a year. You can easily sign a veteran that can come in and get you 400, 500 yards for like $3-4 million and see what you have in. I mean, I think we know we have in Bates a good blocking tight end that's gonna be on the roster, but he's not a pass catching guy. And then you'll have Cole Turner and Armani Rogers in camp and see if one of those guys can step up. And that's kind of what I would do. Your thoughts on the tight end position and Logan Thomas?
Yeah, they probably have to do a restructure, but Logan Thomas might decline that. And excuse me, if they want to move on from him, I'm on board for that too. And I hate to see it happen because he was really good, man. But the dirty hit by Yannick Ngakoue that really messed up his knee. He just doesn't look the same, man. And he's moving. He was never fast or anything like that, but now he really looks remarkably slower, very noticeably slower than what he was. He struggles in pass protection, like you said, the holding penalties against the Giants. He gets bulldozed, he gets beat as a run blocker. So yeah, I mean, I feel like John Bates can go out there and do the same things that he does. Cole Turner, he's not much of a blocker either, but I think Cole Turner needs some reps. Armani Rogers, man, he's pretty athletic, man. I want to see more from him. He was just hurt last year. But shout out to Logan Thomas. He is a vocal leader. He is a captain of this team. If it wasn't for him and his wife speaking out, I don't think Scott Turner would have been fired. So he was a big help in that. So if they bring him back, I won't be mad if they bring him back and they don't restructure him. Like, I'll get why. Because he's still like – the Texans game was his best game. He had a big job against the Giants, but he just wasn't the same guy, man. So I feel like they got to draft the tight ends on the list too. Like, I feel like in the first 3 rounds, I would draft the tight end. Or at least by the 4th round. In the 4th round, I would draft a tight end for sure. And Austin Hooper's available. He's a free agent. I like Hayden Hurst from the Bengals. There's a couple guys that I like that I don't think will break the bank necessarily that they should go after, man. I really like Hayden Hurst for the Bengals, man. He's been playing really good in the playoffs. And who else did I just say? Austin Hooper is somebody I would think about too. I know they liked Austin Hooper like 2 years ago. Was a free agent, but he had a good year with the Titans. So I would take a look at him, man. If he only was like $5 million, I would definitely look at that. But Logan Thomas, man, like, yeah, he was very disappointing this year, man. He looked like he's not, I don't want to say a shell of himself, but yeah, he was not the same guy at all this year.
Yeah, for sure. And who knows? Maybe he's a little bit better in his 2nd year off the injury. But I'm fine bringing in someone else, like you said, Austin Hooper, Hayden Hurst. I mean, some people want Evan Ingram. I mean, I think Evan Ingram.
But you're gonna have to pay him though.
You're gonna have to pay him, and he is a tight end, but at the same time, he's not really a tight end. Like, he's a receiver / tight end.
Yeah.
So it's like he's not gonna be blocking. I mean, you already have the blocker in Bates, but like he's not really even a tight end, but he's an option as well. But I agree with you. Bring in someone would be nice. Like, I feel like if we had the 3rd round pick from the Wentz deal, I know we got a 3rd round comp pick, but if we had a 3rd round pick from the Wentz deal, I think it would be much easier to draft a tight end. But like, I think you need a cornerback, a tackle, and even a guard, and maybe even a linebacker before a tight end. It depends on what you do in free agency, but that Wentz trade, not good at all. And I think you didn't like it when it happened, right?
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way when we got Fitzpatrick. I was just like, ugh, like at first, and then I kind of warmed up to it. Like, it took me like a week to warm up to it. And I was like, okay, I think he can be, he still got the arm strength. We'll push the ball downfield. We got weapons, Jahan, Curtis, and Terry and Brian Robinson. So I bought in a little bit, but I was lukewarm to it. But at first, yeah, I didn't like that we had to trade a 3rd and possibly a 2nd or 2 thirds. If he was a free agent, I was like, yeah, I wanted to get him because I heard they were going to cut him because, Jim Irsay hated Carson Wentz's guts, but they ended up trading for him. And I didn't really like it because of the whole we always do that. We always get quarterbacks they're past their prime or when they're basically washed up. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I wasn't. My gut feeling is always the first feeling. My gut feeling with Fitzpatrick, I didn't like it, and then I tried to convince myself to it. Same thing with Carson Wentz. My gut feeling, I didn't like it, and then I was like, I kind of like understood why Ron wanted to get him because of the arm strength. He wanted to push the ball down the field. But yeah, I didn't like it. Now that first game of the season, I remember your video where you said we could possibly have a top 10 offense. I remember that. And they did look good, man. Like I was hyped too. Like I was so happy. Like when that first drive, like that was Scott Turner's best drive ever as a Commanders offensive coordinator. Like that first drive, like Carson threw the ball to Antonio Gibson, he threw a touchdown pass to Curtis. Like that was a hell of a game. Like that was a hell of a drive. But it just didn't work out that way.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. That first, I always look back and look at my videos. Some of them, the opinions were good. Like I said, the Commanders' defense is going to be much improved, and I saw like there was people like hating on me like in the first few weeks this because I made the video mid-season or mid-off season. People were hitting me like, "What are you talking about?" It ended up being true, and then I also overreacted after the first game. I said the Washington Commanders offense. I either said I think I said could be elite or could be top 5 or top 10,
yeah.
and they were not that. Not good. Everything went downhill after, I guess, the Jaguars or Lions game. Both those games are okay for the offense. After that, it went downhill for the offense and uphill it went downhill for the offense, and the defense improved. The defense improved once we got William Jackson out of there and Cam Curl got back in. That's another guy. I don't think there's any debate. We want Cam Curl back. Bring him back before his contract year because, I mean, it's hard to really control interceptions, but who knows? He could have like a big year this year in terms he gets like 3-4 interceptions. And I don't really care about the interceptions with Cam Curl because we know how good of a player is, but he hasn't gotten any interceptions the last 2 years. And maybe that could be a little bit of a negotiation tactic that we could use right now. But if he goes out and gets a huge year interception wise, the price is going to go up. Anyways, the price is going to go up. I would just give him what he wants right now and let him ball out this year. But yeah, the offense was not good this year at all. And wait, what were we talking about before? About before the top 10?
Like Logan Thomas. And then you asked me about Carson Wentz.
Oh yeah, the quarterbacks. Yeah, Fitzpatrick. Originally I was like, and then like 5 minutes later I was like, okay, like I can like get with this. And then I mean, I guess we really never got a true answer because he got hurt right away. And of course, the classic Washington thing, like he almost never had any injuries. And then the second quarter, he has a season-ending hip injury, or it was a water slide before. Who knows? The Wentz trade, this is what happens. The day before, I was heartbroken we didn't get Wilson. Thank God we didn't get Wilson, but I wanted Russell Wilson. And then I'm in my econ class, and then I see that the notification from Adam Schefter, I'm on my computer, that we trade from him. I'm like, oh my God, do we seriously trade for this man? And then I see the headline, like 2 third-round picks, and like I had to like refresh the screen because I was like, what? Like I did not believe that we trade. I thought it was an awful trade because like you, I would have been fine with signing him because the Colts didn't want him or Jameis Winston. I was like fine with that. But they ended up trading a second. It honestly probably should have, like, it almost was a second. Like if Carson Wentz doesn't get hurt, it might have been a second round pick and a third round pick and a second round pick swap. And on top of that, we paid $28 million. Like what a buffoon Ron Rivera was for making that trade when our first offer to them was a 6th round pick. How do you go from a 6th round pick to that? It doesn't make sense at all. Like that is like, for me, that's what just gets me upset with Ron because I can live with the coaching. It's not great. He needs to get someone to fix his clock management, like just do it for him and his challenges.
Yeah.
that I can't live with. Like, I don't know how you make that decision. No one was giving up even 1 third-round pick, and you give up a conditional second, a third, a second-round pick swap, and you pay his whole salary. Do not know what Ron Rivera was thinking there, and it hurt them. I mean, if they just ran it back with Heineke and paid a bunch of guys, they would have made the playoffs. I really think so.
I
And
think so too.
yeah, it's just unfortunate. It is what it is. But yeah, that was not a good trade by Rivera. And
Yeah,
speaking,
it's
go ahead.
basically Donovan McNabb all over again. That was my gut reaction. It just felt like Donovan McNabb all over again.
Yeah, and Ron Rivera has made some good moves, but I feel like there's so many obvious moves that this guy just does not make. Like, it was clear we needed another linebacker. Like, we did not need a star linebacker, but we needed someone. And I said, let's see, me says I'm looking like John Kime. I've gotten that a lot. Someone, like, people are like, "Oh, you're John Kime's son," but what's it called? Um, I don't know. I mean, we were talking about the whole off season. Like, we need a linebacker. We need a linebacker. And then what does Ron Rivera do 1 week before the season? He's like, let's go sign John Bostic. That's the solution to all our problems. And even with Cole Holcomb being healthy, like, we still probably needed another linebacker. And then when he got hurt for the year, we're playing guys like John Bostic, David Mayo, Khaleke Hudson, and some of those. I mean, Khaleke Hudson has some potential, but he shouldn't be playing shouldn't be playing 100% of snaps, at least not now. And it's just really unfortunate because there were guys out there, Quan Alexander, AJ Klein, other guys as well, Anthony Barr, like guys that produced this year. And Ron could have easily signed him for super, super cheap. He doesn't do it. And it was an obvious move that they needed. Cornerback depth was another one. Like, they didn't have cornerback depth going into the year. And then you combine that with Benjamin St. Juste being injury prone, and it did hurt them at times when they had to start Christian Holmes against the Giants in the game they tied. That was a game that, who knows, if Benjamin St. Juste wasn't hurt in that game, we maybe win that game because Christian Holmes was getting just killed by Slate, even though that was a push off, and then Isaiah Hodgins. But Ron made his mistakes. Hopefully he's able to be better. Like, yeah, it seems like so many of the obvious moves, like I am your mind says like 90% of the fan base is smarter than Ron's plan. Like, I swear, like, if some of the smart people in the fan base couldn't, like, obviously a lot of us can't scout, but like based off the information we're given, I feel like some of us could do better than what Ron does at his job, because so many obvious things and this is a Ron / Jack Del Rio thing, but like moving Landon Collins to linebacker, we were talking about that for so long, and it took to like week 4, week 5, and that year too, Cam Curl is playing 45% of the snaps, and it's like, what are you doing? But could be the last year of Ron Rivera. We'll see. I mean, for me, I already said before this past season, if we don't make the playoffs, I don't think Ron should be back. They didn't make the playoffs, whatever. He's going to be back for this year, obviously. But I mean, I saw some Sean Payton rumors, but I'm not a huge Sean Payton guy. Like, yes, he's good and he's better than Ron Rivera, but I'm not. Well, it doesn't matter with the money because it doesn't count for salary cap. But paying guy $20 million, a first round pick for a guy that's made one Super Bowl with one of the best QBs of all time. Like, Mike McCarthy gets so much hate for only making one Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, Sean Payton had a bunch of years where he didn't even make the playoffs with Drew Brees. So I don't know. I think Ron Rivera is going to be here for another year. And then if he has a great year, well, with new ownership, if hopefully we have new ownership, then he might be back. If not, he'll be gone and we'll have a whole new regime. And I'll be happy about that. DeAndre, appreciate the $5 donation. He says free agents: Orlando Brown, Deron Payne, Mike Gesicki, Holcomb, draft Gonzalez, Washington, interior offensive line, round 3, linebacker, round 4, Flowers on offensive tackle, cornerback, final 3 rounds, dream off season. So I think Orlando Brown would be good. I think he is. I mean, from the games I've seen him getting beat a couple of times, but obviously would be an upgrade over what we have. Would 100% bring back Payne. Gesicki would be an option as well. Definitely an upgrade over what we have. And Holcomb, I think I would bring back Holcomb. I would. Am I overpaying? No. But if he's willing to come back for a reasonable deal, I'm bringing him back. And then, yeah, I think Christian Gonzalez from Oregon, watch a lot of him. He's a really good guy, a really good player. and would not mind him in the first round or a tackle. And then, yeah, interior offensive line, we definitely got to go after that. And maybe even linebacker as well. Your thoughts on what DeAndre said?
Gesicki, I think he's going to want a lot of money. So I would love to have him. I think he's a very talented tight end. Of course, doing the gritty and whatnot. But I think he's a really good pass catcher. So I've always liked Gesicki. Cole Holcomb, I would like to bring him back, but on a reasonable deal, of course. DeAndre, I think he has kicker in the final K for kicker. I personally wouldn't draft a kicker. I know Ron Rivera drafted a long snapper and Cheeseman 2 years ago. I wouldn't have did that either. But yeah, round 2, interior offensive lineman. Yeah, anything offensive line, I'm down with it. Like I've never wanted to draft an offensive lineman so badly this draft. I'm usually a skill position guy, but we're good. We're stacked at the skill position. Like we need to attack the offensive line.
Yep.
Corner is a top priority as well. So yeah, Gonzalez would be good. Tackle, and then Flyers on offensive tackle. Yeah, I mean Orlando Brown, I think he's a good free agent, but you're gonna have to pay him a lot of money. So I just don't see Ron doing that. But I wouldn't mind. I would like to see them go after Orlando Brown. But yeah, anything with the offensive line involved. Definitely need a linebacker. We need some more depth there for sure. They just don't value that position because I know there's like stats showing that they only use 2 linebackers. They like to use, the 3 safety sets, Bobby McCain, Cameron Curl, and Derek Forrest, especially with Derek Forrest stepping up in a bigger role. So I still see Ron kind of being cheap at linebacker. I don't think he's going to be as cheap as he was, which is only signing Bostic. But I think you should draft one linebacker, maybe like in the 5th round. And I would play Khalil Hudson more too because I thought he played well in that Dallas game. I want to see more of him because he's a younger, athletic guy. But I wouldn't be surprised if he brings David Mayo back and some of the old guys back.
Yeah, I
But
do
yeah,
not want Mayo.
he's got to get some outside guys in here. He's got to get some more talent at the linebacker position for sure.
100%. And yeah, Mike Gesicki does my type of gritty. Let's see. But yeah, appreciate that donation. Yeah, I mean, a kicker would prefer not to draft one, but I mean, you can sign a undrafted guy or sign a free agent because Joey Slye, beginning of the year was a little shaky. Then the next 12, 13 weeks he was good, and the last few weeks he was just not good. So I don't care what they do either way. Fellow Hokie, but I heard he's not the nicest guy. So it is what it is. Let's see. Watt Holmes says, "How do you say your last name? Is it Smith or Schmidt? It's Schmith. Schmith. I know it's hard to pronounce. 50% Pain says, let's get Antonio Brown. Heck to the no. That man, I don't know what's up with his mind. CTE or whatever. I mean, even before the CTE, he got kicked off his college football team. The guy's crazy. Every day there's something else with him. No, I don't want him. We're going to wrap it up in a few minutes, but I know you probably have the same thoughts, right?
Yeah, man. Even when he was with the Steelers, I remember saying that with the Raiders too. Like when he froze his feet and all the CT, the concussions. Celebrating that he got cut from the Raiders. The whole helmet thing, like he didn't have the right helmet, so he was trying to retire. There was a video of him, and then of course him leaving the field with the Buccaneers, where he took his shirt off and he's like hyping up the crowd and leaving, and him being a rapper and the whole little thing like this or whatever. So yeah, he's a head case. I hope he can be in the right space. And then there was like a police hold up at his house or something. There's just so much stuff that's going on. And then he was in the pool and with some girl, and there's just so much stuff with him that I can't say.
Yeah.
But I think you guys get the point. I think his NFL career is over.
Yeah, him doing this stuff with like Brady's wife, the Snapchat stories, a ton of stuff. But he said he's just trolling, and that's all good. So we're gonna wrap it up in a couple minutes. We're just gonna talk some Wizards for a couple. Ed is a big Wizards guy, but before that, make sure you guys sub up to both of our channels. 133 people in here. I'm sure someone isn't subscribed to both of us, so go ahead and do that. It takes 1 second, and we'll have videos out this week. So Wizards, they made the big trade with, I guess they made a trade with the Lakers. They get the Wizards trade Rui Hachimura, 9th overall pick a few years ago, for Kendrick Nunn, 2023 second round pick. I think that's the Bulls, a 2028 second round pick, and a 2029. Is that right?
Yeah. yeah. So both picks are a couple of years from now. It's people who are in high school and very young. So we're not gonna say that. But Armand Brown, yeah, he's funny. He's a funny guy. Yeah, I didn't like the trade at first. I hated getting 3 second-round picks and then Kendrick Nunn, a guy who was barely getting playing time on the Lakers. He was injured all last year, so I thought Rui was a way better player than that guy. So I thought you could definitely get more than that, more value. And it's kind of disappointing. It's another first round pick that gets traded. Like the Wizards, we always get first round picks and trade them. Troy Brown got traded, Kelly Oubre got traded. Otto Porter got another contract, but it didn't work out. Like every time we get a first round pick, they never work out. And then you look at Johnny Davis, like he's barely playing in the G League or he's barely scoring in the G League. Yeah, so it's like Tommy Shepard is not good at drafting. Like he's really struggling to draft. Denny Avdia, he's playing better, but he's really inconsistent. Corey Kisper's a shooter, but he's super inconsistent. I think I like Rui the most out of all three of them and all four, and he gets traded for that. So I'm like, sheesh, like what's gonna happen when we got to trade Denny or trade Corey? Like this is terrible. So it was very disappointing. I was pretty upset when I got the news and notification too, and especially with him going to the Lakers. Like he had a good game last night. Like he's gonna be good with it. Yeah, he hit a solid game. Like him, Russ, LeBron, Anthony Davis. Like they're gonna make him better because he's gonna get a lot of open shots. Like they're gonna push him and motor him. And Wizards always leave. People always leave the Wizards and they get better. You look at Otto Porter. He won a championship with the Warriors. Bobby Portis won a championship with the Bucks. You can go back to Richard Hamilton with the Pistons, Ben Wallace with the Pistons, Rasheed Wallace with the Pistons, Chris Webber with the Kings. So every time somebody gets traded from the Wizards, they always play better. It just never fails. But they had a big win against the Mavericks. I was happy they beat Spencer Dinwiddie.
That guy's a bum.
He is.
That guy, I don't watch every Wizards game, but that man, the Wizards live rent-free in his head. He was awful here. Awful. And I actually liked the trade when it happened. And honestly, it was still a good overall. It kind of worked out, that trade that they made because they ended up getting Porzingis out of it. But let's see. Armor Brown says, Pedro, how you get Ed Oliver up past his bedtime lull? Should we get Jordan Love to compete with Sam? I mean, Ed is usually on late on the streams. I know with who was it? Louis T. It was like a 4-hour stream and other stuff like that. But happy you were able to come on. Jordan Love, it's kind of like a Trey Lance situation, but a little bit worse because he's been in the league for a while. I've heard not amazing things. Trey Lance, I would take over Jordan Love. Jordan Love was a 3rd overall pick, and he hasn't really played much. I would not trade for Jordan Love, but I mean, he has potential. Maybe if you want to, like, his value might be so low that it's like, okay, if you can get him for like a 5th round pick or 6th round pick, you bring back Heineke or another veteran, you have Howell as a starter, and you have Love on the roster just in case he's that guy. Okay, but I'm not giving up much for him. What do you think?
I wouldn't trade for Jordan Love either. But he had one solid game, like against the Eagles, where he was throwing the ball to Christian Watson. That was one game where I saw him play well, but I don't think there's a point. I think Sam Howell has the chance to be better than Jordan Love. I don't want to waste a pick. I want to use these picks, man. We got the 2 compensatory picks. We got 8 picks. I think we need all our picks. We got to use them. They're gonna have to get at least 2 offensive linemen in this draft or corners. So this team has a lot of needs, man. I'd rather build up this roster this year, kind of like what the Eagles did. I'm not gonna say Sam Howell's as good as Jalen Hurts, of course, but I like their approach where they just attack every position. I know we're not gonna be big spenders like that, but I want us to attack every position. Unless there's a quarterback really available in the draft, that's the only way I'm gonna get another quarterback on this roster.
Yeah, and real quick back to the Wizards. I didn't like the Rui trade. He was like one of my favorites on the team. Like I always saw the potential there. And
I'm sorry to interrupt, but he had 30 points. Like
go ahead.
It's funny because I've never seen a guy have 30 points and he gets traded the next day. Like, he literally had 30 points the other day.
Yeah, it seems like his trades are a little bit better than his drafting. Last thing before we wrap it up. Your thoughts on the rest of the Wizards season? maybe something they do before the trade deadline, and expectations for the finish. Because it seems like, I think I saw the record, when they have Porzingis, Beal, and Kuzma, the record's pretty good.
Yeah, and the funny thing is too with Rui, they were 17-13 with Rui. It was not great, but they had a winning record when he was there. Without him, the bench scoring was really bad. They were like 22nd in the league in bench scoring, but with him, they were like top 10 in bench scoring, and he was top 5 in double digit scoring off of the bench this year. So he's a legitimate scorer. Yeah, defensively he struggled, passing he struggled. Then he had the personal reasons thing where he missed 40 games last year because of personal reasons. But Kendrick Nunn balled out last night, man. He dunked on somebody, had a beautiful behind the back pass to Kyle Kuzma. Kendrick Nunn was impressive. He had 12 points too. Kuzma had 33, but before the trade deadline, now there's reports that they are interested in trading for Serge Ibaka. I don't know why they would do that. He's 35, 36 years old. They already have Taj Gibson, who's pretty up there. So I don't see a point in doing that. I don't know who they would really trade for. I mean, there's guys like Colin Sexton, but they already have a bunch of point guards. They do need a 3-and-D wing pretty bad. I think Denny's going to get more playing time. He's going to improve. He just had 2 double-doubles in a row. Tommy Shepard said the trade is because they wanted to get Denny more playing time, trading Rui. I don't know if that's necessarily true or not, but I think they're going to make the play-in. I think they're going to make the play-in and lose in the play-in. That's my prediction right now because they're on a 4-game winning streak. They're actually playing really, really good right now. Kuzma's been cooking.
Yeah, I've seen that, and it's just
And
unfortunate.
I think one bold prediction is not really bold. I think Kyle Kuzma. I think he's going to make the All-Star team.
Hey, hopefully, he's been balling out, and it is unfortunate. The Wizards, 2017, 2016, that Celtics run, that was amazing. Almost went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then after that, kind of just fell off with Wall with his injuries, and then Beal started to get better. It would have been nice to see Beal in his prime and Wall in his prime together, but we'll see. Maybe the Wizards can get back there, but it's going to be a while. But yeah, that's it for this stream. Appreciate you for coming on, Ed. Great channel, of course. Make sure you guys sub up to him, and doing his Wizards stuff, of course. Locked On Wizards, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Locked On Wizards.
Yeah, make sure you guys check that out. Great. Whenever I get trying to get more Wizards content, I'm always on there, and some of the Twitter guys like Chase Hughes as well. So yep, thanks for coming on, guys, and appreciate everyone in the chat. Enjoy the playoff football this weekend. Should be good. Second to last weekend of the season. Thanks for watching, and peace.